What's good, everybody? It's your boy EMW Figure Shelf, and I want to bring up something very somewhat interesting, and I hope it's kind of not true personally. Is I heard yesterday on September 20th, 2025, that there was a word going around that as of yesterday, the word was going around that Jazwares actually lost the AEW license for the wrestling figures. As you can see, I'm a avid wrestling collector, huge wrestling fan. All my life, tried, becoming a pro wrestler myself, minus, some injuries along the way. So, always an avid, lover for pro wrestling. Now, when it comes to the Jazwares line, I know there's a lot of criticism that this line gets, and, in some cases, rightfully so. I've collected since they first came out with that first wave. And the skin tones were off, the joints were loose, and the thing is, the reason why I'm very optimistic, and I've always been with Jazwares, is ultimately, I really think they cared about their audience. They cared about the consumer, because they would go as far as to adjust certain concerns with, a lot of figures in the past. They would fix the sin color. They would adjust height differences. Are there still height imperfections? Absolutely. Could they be scaled a little bit smaller to fit in with your AEW figure, your Mattel figures? Absolutely. I feel like sometimes they run a little bigger than they should. And it is what it is to some degree, but ultimately, for the scale of what it is, they still blend fairly good, like with your Mattel figures. As you can see right there, those are 3 Mattel figures of the Hurt Syndicate, Hurt Business, whatever you'd like to preferably call them. But, I can even say, like, I have the Super 7 Will Ospreay, the first Will Ospreay figure really made. And you can see, although you can tell that this is Ospreay, that AEW Unmatched figure just looks that much more improved. And it's not throwing shade at another company or anything like that. It's just being factual as a avid pro wrestling enthusiast. Now, what I want to say is, with the addressing the rumors, or, there's not any confirmation or denial that they had lost the license. Now, personally, until that happens, I'm going to root for them to keep the license. Any issues that they've had does not outweigh, to me, the positivity that they've brought to the pro wrestling figure landscape. When Mattel, WWE was the only game in town, back in 2018, 2019, the custom market was so big. Now, that kind of diluted a little bit, because now we were getting, Kenny Omega. Now we're getting the Young Bucks. Now we were getting updated Cody Rhodes. We were getting a lot of figures of wrestlers that weren't being made from Mattel, or even eventually would be more updated to what they looked, say, like Brody Lee, for instance. We had all those Luke Harper figures. Then we got Brody Lee in the Dark Order. There was a lot that they were coming out with that obviously made us very ecstatic as, wrestling collectors. And there's a lot of figures that they have coming down the pipe that were shown at San Diego Comic-Con that I'm hoping we could still get our hands on. Again, I'm just trying to be optimistic. I even love the addition of the Ring of Honor figures that we have been starting to get. A lot of the deeper cut figures. Like, to me, this Kenny Omega, I would have never thought, seeing him in Jersey All Pro Wrestling back in 2018, that would have a version replicating that. Same thing with, a better, to me, a more complete version of Brody Lee. There's a lot of things. Hank, the Briscoes, one of my favorite tag teams of all time. CM Punk in his Ring of Honor gear. There was a lot that they contributed toward that I feel like, as a wrestling collector, there's definitely a place for them. Because now I feel like if they were to lose, everyone's suspecting, oh, maybe Hasbro will pick up the license. Maybe another company will pick up the license. That is a bigger IP than, say, the AEW IP would not, to me, I worry that it wouldn't be big enough for Hasbro or another company to say, yeah, we'll give it a shot. Because one thing you got to figure is, I can say this from personally, I have barely seen AEW figures in retail. Most of my collection from AEW has been online. I can name probably on like one hand or a hand and a half of what I found on retail versus actually like what I bought some, say, Ringside or, eBay or, any other website, Amazon, you name it. And that's one thing that another wrestling company or another toy company will look at this and say, well, we have WWE in the main toy market. This AEW is a smaller wrestling company, and granted, it might not cost them as much as, say, a WWE license, but it's still, would it be worth their investment? Some companies might say no, and that's the part that concerns me, and I say that as a hardcore wrestling fan. I'm not saying that as just an AEW fan. I'm trying to be optimistic that I want Jazwares to keep it because of those reasons, but also because I always feel like there's always been room for improvement. I can show you Mattel figures from 15 years ago compared to today, and how far Mattel has come from when they first started, how those figures were still very much needed to improve, to how great they can look, and even still to this day they come out with a lot of mistakes as well. They're not perfect, nobody really is. So again, I really want to know what you guys think of this. I mean, as you can see, I have a very extensive AEW Jazwares collection. I have figures literally all over the place, just mishmash throughout, because to me, they were showing off. I love a lot of the people that we were able to get from the Jazwares line. At this time, definitely thank you so much, Jazwares, for all you have done so far. And I just want them to continue doing what they've been doing. That's just my personal take on it. So let me know what you guys think. Are you happy with what Jazwares has done? Are you happy if they lose the license? Were you for them? Were you against them? Let me know what you thought. Once again, here's to all of us that enjoyed the AEW Jazwares line. Here's to hoping that they can continue doing what they're doing. Don't want to make this any more long-winded than it's already been. But thank you all for watching, and hope to catch y'all on the next one. Peace!